Hey, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be doing my out-of-box review for the next in the HG Revive line. It is the Gundam Mk-II AEUG version. Now, I do have this one as well as the Titans version, and I will be comparing them, and I will be comparing them to the RG as well if you wanted to see that, but I'm going to save all the comparisons for the review of the Titans version. The review for the AEUG version, I want to cover the articulation of the kit. And then in the Titans version, I'll skip the articulation and cover the comparisons in that, so if that makes sense. So if you want to see this one compared to the Titans version, or if you want to see this kit compared to the RG, just come back for the Titans review. Or if you want to see the articulation for this kit, then you're in the right place, because that's what we're going to cover in this part, or I should say in the review of this kit. So really awesome kit here. I gotta say right off the bat, I love the design of this kit. The Mk-II is not, honestly, it's not a Gundam that I really get all that excited about, but whenever I build a kit of it, I really love the kit. So the RG is a kit that I've built a few times now, and I really love it. And I gotta say, this kit as well as the Titans kit version of this are both super nice. They are definitely different, obviously, in a lot of ways, instead of being an RG and an HG, but I just mean proportion-wise, they're really quite different as well, and you'll see that when we compare them. Overall, between this kit and the Titans version, the kits themselves are exactly the same. The stickers are the same. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that. The stickers are slightly different. But the plastic is exactly the same. None of the parts are going to be any different at all, whereas the RG, they did have some different parts. This time, they're exactly the same, just different colors. So maybe if you wanted one version or the other, you really don't have to buy, you don't have to focus on buying one or the other if you're going to be painting, because you can obviously paint it whatever color you want. So unlike the RG, there's no difference in buying these two kits, which I think was not very smart on Bandai's part. I think making at least some small difference, like for example the RG had the parts to make the Titans version into the test type. I think doing something like that for this HG kit would have been a good idea on Bandai's part, just to ensure that they are selling both the kits as much as possible. But I think with this, I mean, people really have the option, if you have the option of painting, you really have no need to buy both kits, but I guess, you know, I mean, you still have to buy one or the other, you still have to buy both, so I guess it's not really too much of a loss. But I think it would have been nice, it would have been cool if we would have had something different about the kits. So otherwise, it's going to come with the usual sort of accessories for Gundam: a beam rifle, a bazooka, a shield, beam sabers, and then this does also come with a interesting Vulcan pod as well. As I've said before, I'm not really a huge fan of the Vulcan pod, but I'll show that to you guys here momentarily. Otherwise, you can see the colors on here are overall very good. There's going to be a couple small color apps that are missing from this that you definitely will have to paint. You know, whether you're painting the whole kit or not, if you do want it to be totally color accurate, you will have to do at least some painting on this, but you know, for HG, that shouldn't really come as too much of a surprise for you. I think overall, the color apps on this are all really quite nice. We have all the vents on the shoulders, the legs, the chest, all in yellow there, as well as the color and the V-fin, of course. Then some nice red parts there for the feet, cockpit hatch, and then on the head. And then some dark blue, the light gray for the inner frame, and the really nice sort of off-white for the armor as well. It's nice that that is the correct sort of off-white color and not too white and not too dark. I think the color is really just right. So let's go ahead and take a closer look now, and we'll go into the articulation for this kit. So just to point out some of these stickers, most of them are going to be here in what you can see at the moment. There's these small green stickers here on the chest for those small cameras, green sticker there on the head for the forehead camera, green sticker for the eyes, and then the back of the head, green sticker there as well. That's going to be the majority of the stickers for this kit right there. Head is going to go up about that far, really nice bend up on the head, because we had that different part for the neck piece. If you saw in the unboxing, I mentioned we're not using that regular HG polycap that we use for a lot of HGs these days. It's a totally separate piece, so it's going to allow for some really nice movement on the head going up, down about like that too as well, also quite nice. And then for the shoulders, they're going to be going up only about that far, not as much as the Revive ARC-782 Gundam. They are using the same engineering with the polycap and the joint, but just because of the way these use that extra gray piece there in the shoulder, it's going to be limited to about that far. But it's really not too bad at all, because then you can rotate the arm and then bring that up all the way like that if you want to have it reaching back to grab the beam saber. that's gonna be no problem. One thing I'll say right about this kit right away is that once again we have no other hand options other than these holding hands. So if you wanted open hands or any other sort of action hands for this, you're gonna be out of luck. What you see is what you get here, just these holding hands is it. So otherwise, just rotate there at the arm. Really nice double joint here at the elbow, as usual. Ball joint at the wrist, again as usual, but here at the waist, wish I could say it's as usual, but it's not as usual for all HGs, but definitely for the HG Revive kits. We have a ball joint below, as you can see as that's coming apart there. But then in the torso section we have a little bit of ab crunch here, and that part is going to move a little bit there in the torso. So that's really nice bend there. You just have to be careful that it doesn't pop off the ball joint, as it easily tends to do, as you can see. So the back skirt is not going to move at all, but this piece here is going to open up for holding our bazooka. We can put that there. The side skirts are just going to move like normal, just up a little bit, about that far. The front skirts can be separated to move about that far up, and then we can move the leg up all the way up that high. So really nice high bend there for the hip. It's going to be coming up that far. Double joint at the knee, but because of this very thick armor around the lower leg, it's about all you're going to get a bend out of the leg. It's more than 90 degrees, about 90 would be something like that. It's more than that, but it's definitely not quite 180 degrees, but I think it's definitely enough. It's good. We don't have any sort of separation in the knee armor here. That would have been maybe nice if this knee armor part was attached to the inner frame of that knee part in some way, so we had a movement there, but again, not really too much to complain about. We have this inner part of the knee that's separated there, so that's kind of nice. And then, of course, the hips, the legs are going to rotate there at the hip as well, also pretty standard. And then the ankle, the foot is all one piece, so you're not going to get any toe bend. Sadly, that would have been nice too, but we do get a really nice downward pointing ankle there, just because we have two different joints, one at the bottom of the leg and then a ball joint at the foot as well. So we're going to have nice, good movement with that foot pointing down, like so. And then the ankle armor is just going to be attached onto pegs here, just sandwiched around that, so that's able to move up and down like so. So, I mean, it's nothing too out of the ordinary. All the articulation is super nice, but for a Revive kit, if you've built any of the other Revive kits so far, it's standard to what you would expect, especially if you've built the RX-78-2 Gundam. It's basically exactly the same articulation from that kit, so you can only expect great things out of this. Like I said, the shoulders don't go up quite as far, but otherwise everything is pretty much exactly the same. For the backpack, these parts here will move a little bit, up and down and forward and back a little bit. The thrusters don't move at all, those are just plugged straight into there. And then of course our beam saber handles are mounted in there. Those can just be popped off. They're just on some pegs there on the backpack. So that's where those are going to go. And that's pretty much it for the articulation. Like I said, if you've built the RX-78-2 Revive version, it's going to be very similar to that. So why don't we go ahead and take a look at the accessories. You just saw the beam saber handles. Let me go ahead and pull that off one more time, because I just want to reiterate just how long these beam saber effect parts are. If we stand this up next to the Gundam, we can see that beam saber with the handle is going to be standing almost as tall as the Gundam itself, so very long for that. Then we also have our beam rifle. Pretty nice design here. Obviously not going to be as much articulated as the RG version. The camera does not fold down, the ammo pack does not come off, but the secondary handle does move up and down. So it moves up to a 90-degree angle like that, and then down 90 degrees to there. But I think it's very simple and effective, and like the RG, this will plug onto the side skirts and should work without too much of an issue, but it definitely is going to have a little bit of a trick to it. I think we'll have to angle it slightly just to get that to work on there. And so yeah, unless I'm doing something wrong, that's about the best you can do, I think. Unless we angle that kind of like that. It's kind of tricky, but you can get that to plug onto the side skirt like so. Not really the best thing, and I think it's kind of silly, but you can do that if you want. Then we also have our Bazooka. Stand this back there. The Bazooka, again, also pretty simple. The ammo pack doesn't come out. We have a sticker. Same with the beam rifle. We have the sticker for the camera. We have a sticker for the camera on the Bazooka as well. We'll have a seam line going down the top and bottom of that, but that's, again, standard for an HG. The handle does move forward and back a little bit, so that'll be nice, making it easy to put this up over the shoulder or under the arm. I think you should be able to. I haven't tried that yet, but we'll try it here momentarily. So that's our Bazooka. Then we have the Vulcan pod. As I mentioned, this one also has a small green sticker for the camera, and this has two little tabs. Same as, basically this is very similar to the RG, a little bit less parts, but it's going to be going on essentially the same. It's just going to fit over the head and just click into place, and there you go. When that's on the head, it's going to look like that. So really cool thing on there if that's what you're into. Like I said, personally it's not really my favorite weapon, but it is cool that we get it, of course. And then finally the shield. Here is basically the one difference between the AEUG version and the Titans version. The AEUG version comes with these yellow stickers for here on the shield. The Titans version does not have that. It doesn't have that color app on the shield. Otherwise the kits are 100% the same. So our shield has these extra ammo packs for the rifle built in there. Those aren't removable or anything. If you wanted those out, you'd have to just cut those parts off. So that's kind of too bad. The other thing that this doesn't share from the RG version is this shield is not collapsible into the collapsed form. So if you wanted to do that, you would kind of have to just like modify the kit a little bit just to have it collapsed like that. Otherwise it just plugs in here like normal. We have two different adapter pieces for this. We have one which is just a straight connection, which will just attach it straight onto the back of the arm. Alternatively, we have this other one, which is the one I would prefer to use, which will make it so that when it's attached to the back of the arm, the shield is on the side of the arm. So that's just going to go in here simply like that. And of course we're going to have no issues keeping that in the arm. It's nice and secure. So that's it for the accessories. Like I said, it's just basic stuff for the Gundam. But what's really going to make this kit shine is just getting into some awesome poses. So let's get into it. So as you can see, it is nice that this kit is able to hold pretty much everything that it has. Of course, can't hold the beam saber effect parts or both of the option plugs for the shield. Of course, there's not really too much you can do about that, but it can hold all of its weapons, the shield, the bazooka, the beam rifle, all at the same time with no problems. I guess you could hold both of the beam saber effect parts by having the beam rifle plugged onto the side skirt and then having it hold both beam sabers at the same time, but again, that's just kind of silly and just not really too much of a point to that. But the point is that there is a lot of options you can do with the weapons here. You can plug the shield onto either the left or the right arm. You can hold the weapons in either the left or the right hand because they're not based on a trigger finger. They're just meant to be held just in the plain open hand. So the nice thing about these holding hands is their diversity. It's like some weapons, it's nice to have trigger finger hands, but sometimes we only get a trigger finger hand for the right side when maybe you want to hold that particular gun on the left side and you can't. So there's definitely pros and cons to this one here. And again, overall, just a really, really nice look here. As you can see, just posing it, it's going to look really quite nice. Now, since I mentioned it before, I just had to try it, and as you can see, you're going to have no problem holding that bazooka up underneath the arm as well as over the arm thanks to that nice handle there. And just so the way the arm operates is good enough that you can hold it under the arm there. One thing I can also point out is that you can see up underneath the feet you do have the same kind of thing where you've got detail around most of the underside of the foot, but then some hollow section there as well. Another thing I also forgot to point out is that on the backpack there is part of the backpack that comes off to expose a hole in the backpack. Pretty sure what that is for the P-Bandai option set that you can buy that comes with the flying armor and the parts to make the Super Gundam. So what that hole is for plugging on the parts of the backpack to make the Super Gundam. I'm pretty sure that's what that's for. I could be wrong and someone will let me know. One negative thing that I am encountering though is that if you saw earlier how when I was showing the articulation the top and bottom half of the kit came apart at that ball joint in the center, That's happening quite a bit as I'm trying to pose the kit, and I don't know exactly why. The lower half of the kit, because of the bulk of the legs are really quite heavy. So I think if you're like holding the kit, maneuvering, kind of moving around the top of the kit, there's a good chance that the bottom half will fall off at that ball joint. I think it's just because of the weight of the legs. But just be a little bit careful about that, as the kit does tend to come apart there at the center at that ball joint. So that's just about gonna do it for this kit, guys. Overall, I gotta say it's not quite as fluid and dynamic as the Revive RX-782 Gundam was. Although, like I said in the articulation, all the articulation is pretty much gonna be essentially the same. I think just the design, of course, is gonna be slightly different in the armor. Despite most of the joints and stuff being essentially the same engineering, the armor is different, so there is going to be some little bit more different limitations there, so you do have to take that into consideration. It is very, very similar though, although this one is maybe not quite as nice as that. This one definitely does have a really awesome look to it, and a quite different look from the RX-782, despite the Gundams being essentially very, very similar. There is definitely a different look to these, so really, really awesome build, guys. I would highly recommend you get this kit. It's really cheap as well, so whether you get this one or the Titans version, I would highly recommend getting at least one of these. They're really, really nice kits. As always, if you have any other questions or comments or something that I missed, I'm sure that there is, and you guys will let me know. Please let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, not a whole lot else I can say about this kit, guys, but stay tuned, and in the next review we're going to be looking at the Titans version, at which point we will compare this with the RG, because I think if you guys want a 1/144 scale, highly articulated version of the Revive Gundam Mk-II, it might be a little bit of a toss-up for you whether you want this or the RG. Of course, the RG is going to be a little bit more expensive, but obviously going to have a much higher part count and details and all of that. So stay tuned for that in the next review. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys then. Bye bye.